Good morning, boys and girls. Today, before we begin our reading lesson, we want to kind of back up and talk about our response that we did yesterday to yesterday's reading. So, as you can see right here, I have pointed to the question, what did Elizabeth feel? What law did Elizabeth feel was unfair? And it says reread pages 435 and 436 to find out. So we are going to be looking for the laws that they are talking about, and we want to look at how she feels about those laws. So I'm going to go back to page 435. And if you look, I circled it right down here. The page numbers are here. And I'm going to reread. She was 13 years old when her father, Judge Cady, told a woman whose husband had died that the farm she had spent her whole life working on would be taken from her. Without a husband, the law stated nothing belonged to her. So one of the laws that Elizabeth was upset about was the law that said that without a husband, nothing belonged to the wife, even though she had owned it her whole life. When her husband died, the law stated that nothing belonged to her. That seems really unfair. And then on page 436, here's page 436, it also says the law was still the law and only men were allowed to change the laws. So there were two things that she was upset about. One was that a woman did not have rights to her husband's property after her husband died. Nothing belonged to her. And also, the law said that only men were allowed to change laws. Okay, so we have found the laws that she was upset about. Now we're going to go up and we're going to look for evidence to support how did she feel about these laws. And at the top of page 436, I can see that it says Elizabeth was horrified by this unfairness. So she was horrified. That means she was very upset about this law. Okay, so that was what you should have answered in Monday's reading response. Now we're going to move on to our lesson for today. And our objective is I can identify the author's point of view and use evidence from the text to support. So as you are reading today, I want you to be thinking about what does the author think about Elizabeth? Okay, so we're going to go on and read. And I know we read this page yesterday, but we're going to just pick up there because that's just where it makes the most sense. So please follow along as I read, starting on page 437. Okay? She decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. She jumped over high hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. She won a prize for being the best in Greek studies. I wonder why the author is telling us about all of these daring things that Elizabeth did. Do you think that the author thinks that Elizabeth is brave and that she is daring? Maybe that's his point of view. Her father was proud, but he worried about his strong-spirited, rule-breaking daughter. Ah, you should have been a boy. He knew how much easier her life would be, but Elizabeth wasn't interested in easy. At 16, since colleges would not let girls in, Elizabeth begged her father to send her to a girls' school to continue her learning. So while most young ladies were getting married, washing dishes, doing laundry, and having babies, Elizabeth was studying religion, math, science, French, and writing. The author's telling us about a lot of things that Elizabeth did that were very unlike any of the other girls around her. She didn't want to get married and wash dishes and have babies. She wanted to go to school. I think that was a very daring thing for her to do in the time when she grew up. Several years later, Elizabeth Cady met Harry Stanton. He was an abolitionist speaking out against slavery. He understood how unfair it was for people not to have rights or power. He did not laugh when Elizabeth talked about freedom. He did not laugh when Elizabeth said all people should be able to live life in the way they choose. And he did not laugh when she told him she would add his name to her own, but she would not give up hers just to marry him. So boys and girls, this Harry Stanton seems like a very good match for Elizabeth. I'm hoping that you agree with that. But she is choosing to keep her name, but also add his name because her name was Elizabeth Cady, and then she ended up being Elizabeth Cady Stanton after they were married. So that was something also that women did not do in that day. Usually they would take their husband's name, but she's taking his name, but she's also keeping her name. So Elizabeth Cady became Elizabeth Cady Stanton and had babies, cooked meals, washed dishes, mended clothes, and did laundry. She loved her babies, but she did not love cooking and dishes and mending and laundry. That reminds me of someone I know, myself. One day her friend Lucretia Mott invited her to church. Lucretia had always shared Elizabeth's ideas about all the things women could do and would do if only they had the right. The other women at lunch shared them too. Elizabeth got fired up. She proposed they hold a meeting. Remember that word proposed means that she gave an idea to the rest of the people. A meeting that would gather together lots and lots of women from all around to talk. But what would they talk about? There were so many things that needed to be set straight. She is once again showing that she is very brave and daring by having these meetings with these other women and talking about these things. Married women couldn't own property or even the money they worked to earn. Elizabeth had learned long ago that only men could change laws because only men could vote. I'm wondering what her next steps are going to be. That was it. That was the one thing that could change everything. If women could vote, they could help change all kinds of laws. This idea was so shocking, so huge, so daring. Elizabeth's friends gasped out loud. If they were flabbergasted, what would other people think? Ooh, that's a good word, flabbergasted. I wonder if we could determine from the text what that word means. Elizabeth did not waver. She knew voting was the only way to make a difference. Her battle cry for the right to vote rang out. Have it, we must. Use it, we will. Even her Henry thought she had gone too far. Oh boy. All right, boys and girls, so today in your reading response on your Google Slides, you are going to answer the question, how did people feel about Elizabeth's ideas? You're going to reread page 444 and 445 to find out. And you're going to answer that in a complete sentence. Do you a great job today, boys and girls, and please remember that you can refer back to this reading video if you need to.